Hello again. So in this video we're going to do something kind of fun. We're going to have an intro to CSS transforms and transitions. So we're going to go over CSS 2D transforms, CSS 3D transforms, and then CSS transitions. We're just going to touch on these and see kind of what they're about and have some fun with it. It's kind of fun to do, especially the transitions part. These are fairly new to the CSS specification. They're getting better support, but I thought before we started we would take a quick look at support for these newer CSS properties. So this is CSS 3 2D transforms, and you can see the support is pretty good. Wherever it's green, it's supported. Looks like it's not supported in Opera Mini. And then some browsers, like the Android browser, older versions of Android, need the WebKit prefix, and then so does Safari 8. But pretty good support for that. If we go to CSS 3D transforms, which is three-dimensional transforms, you can see the support is pretty good as well. Kind of the same thing. We need WebKit in older versions of Android and Safari. Not very good support, not complete support anyway in IE 10 and 11, but pretty good support in Edge for Windows 10, and then same thing. So we'll try to remember to use that WebKit prefix for those. And then the third thing we're talking about here is CSS3 transitions, which is sort of like animation. And pretty good support across the board, same thing. Don't even really need the WebKit prefix except for a couple of older versions of Android, and then Opera Mini is kind of not supporting these things. So, there is some global usage, but not that much in the United States. You can see during this video it's about 5% there for global usage for that. So 5% of people won't see these effects, but the idea is that you don't do too much with these newer CSS properties, in that if it doesn't work, it ruins the page. So keep that in mind. You know, a certain percentage, small percentage of people are not going to be able to see this stuff that we're doing here. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. So what I have here is a start file that I will give you guys. It has just a bunch of divs that we're going to do some fun stuff with, transform them, move them around, rotate them, spin them around, things like that, and animate a little bit with CSS transitions. There are some existing styles in here, so if you want to scroll down to about line 86, it might not be exactly for you, but where it says CSS3 2D transforms. So these were actually added with the CSS3 specification, which is a few years old now, so that's why it's kind of getting better support now. Okay, so the first one we're going to do is style this div1. So this first one here is div1. So we're going to say pound div1, and you can see all the divs are already in there thanks to Dreamweaver helping us out there a little bit. So div1, we'll use the vendor prefix on a couple, and then maybe we'll leave it off to save a little time, but just keep in mind that we might want to use it in real life more because for backwards compatibility. So what I'm doing is adding dash WebKit, and that is the vendor prefix for WebKit, which is works in Safari and Chrome. And what it's for is, so again, that you can, if an older browser that did not, older version of the browser that did not support the final specification for this stuff, it will, they sort of add support and they use the vendor prefix first before the specification, before they've finished with it in the browser, for the browsers. So what it basically means is it's a little more backwards compatible with older browsers that may understand early versions of the specification, if that makes any sense. So we're going to say dash WebKit and then transform. And the first one we're going to do is translate. So if you look over here, you can probably see it better on your screen, maybe with your file. We're using the 4 2D transforms. One is called translate, which moves an element from its current position along the X and Y axis. There's also rotate. You can rotate clockwise or counterclockwise. There's also a scale method, which lets you scale. It's kind of intuitive there. And there's a skew method, which is a little strange. It kind of like skews or bends the object along the X and Y axis as well. So the first one we're going to do is this this translate method. So I'm going to go back up here where I was. So I've got WebKit dash transform. I'm going to say translate. And in parentheses, we're going to put 20 pixels, comma 50 pixels. Just like that. And then let's do it for the first one. We'll add the vendor prefixes as well. So I'm going to add O for Opera. Actually, I can copy this and save some time. We'll just do it for the first one, just to make sure we realize how this works. So I'm going to do O for Opera. I'm going to do MS for Microsoft. I'm going to do MOZ for Mozilla, which is Firefox. And then you always want to end with the actual official CSS, so no vendor prefix. The reason for that is because of the CSS cascade, right? If something, if a browser can read all of these, it will use the last one. The last one wins in the CSS cascade. So it may actually be possible that Firefox will translate slightly differently if it uses the official CSS than if it uses an earlier version using this vendor prefix. I think that's possible, but probably not very likely, but it is possible. So you always want to end up with the last one. So I don't know if you saw what happened there, but it actually moved this div 20 pixels to the right. So the first number is your X movement, and your second number is your Y. If I just change this last one, we could probably see if I change this to 50. Well, now we're not seeing it. Did we see it? I don't know if we saw it there. Let's see. Let's comment this whole thing out and see if we see it refresh on screen here. Let's go with comment there. Okay, so I had to click over here. It didn't refresh. But so there's our original position. We'll put it back here in a second. There's the original position of this div. It's just lined up with the rest of them. They're all kind of the same. So let's uncomment this guy here. And if you look over here, it's moved. It's moved 20 pixels to the right. That's the X number, and 50 pixels down. So we just translated or moved it. You can think of translate as basically moving. So that's pretty good. All right, so that was the first one. Let's do the second one. This one is the rotate method. So we might be able to save a little bit of time by copy and pasting this. The risk is we copy and paste a mistake, but I think we're okay. So we're going to go div 2 with this one. That's the second one. We're going to rotate this one. And this is WebKit transform, and obviously it's not going to be translate. It's going to be rotate. Rotate. If I could type rotate. And then on this one, this is in degrees. So instead of 20, 50, we're just going to put 15 DEG, which is degrees. And that worked already because it looks like this is using the WebKit renderer, so it's already changed over here in my live view. I am going to copy and paste this rotate 15 degrees thing into all of these to make sure we're covering our bases. And again, we probably don't need all these, but we'll do it this way for this one, I guess. There we go. So we've got rotate 15 degrees. If you change it to minus, well, I guess it's using the vendor prefix on that one. You can also do minus. So if we put minus in here for all these, and it did use the WebKit transform. That's interesting. But so now it's minus, which is counterclockwise. So positive numbers go clockwise, negative numbers go counterclockwise. I'm going to comment all this out just for my own curiosity and see if it stays as a negative. Yes, it does. And then if I take this out, it goes back to nothing. Huh, it is using the prefix. That is weird. At least in this browser, in the live view. Let's go to Firefox and see, and it actually works fine in Firefox. So I'm not going to rely on this live view. We're just using the unprefixed version here. It just says rotate 15 degrees, and then if I look at it in Firefox, if I could get my Firefox, it is rotated 15 degrees. So it's working fine without the vendor prefix, but so we will assume that some of this stuff will not work in the live view over here, even though it probably should work. Okay, so I'm going to uncomment that just to make sure that we're good on that. All right, so that is rotate. The third one is scale. So let's just do this one by hand and cut it down a little bit shorter. Let's do div 3. And we'll just add the WebKit prefix and then the official one. So we're going to WebKit transform again. And then we're going to do scale. And you can see scale shows up there. And it gives us the parentheses there as a little tip. So what we're going to do then is go into scale and say 1.5. And then on the other side of the comma, we're going to say 2.5. And that actually did work just with the WebKit prefix. And what it did was, and you can see it says right here, the value scale transforms the width to be larger than the 1.5 times the original width and 2.5 the original height, the numbers we used anyway. So this first number is the height scale, and the second number is the width. Again, to be safe, we should copy this part here. Or not to be safe, actually to be correct. We should copy that part there and use the actual CSS, which is transform scale. So again, this first number is the vertical scaling, and the second number is the horizontal scaling. So that's pretty cool, right? We just made that larger. So for fun, what we can do is we could scale this on hover. So what we're going to do is go to say div 3, and then we've got a second div 3, so it's a little confusing. We got div 3 hover 1, and we'll do the same scaling stuff on that. So we could just copy and paste this. Well, actually what we want to add is the hover pseudo element or class. So we want to do this on hover. So that's going to be on this one right here. So we'll just put this same stuff in here again. So what we're saying here is when we hover over this div called div3 hover, even though it's a separate div from this one, and as we hover over it, we want to scale it. So if you roll over, it works in the live view here. If you roll over this div down here, as soon as we roll over it, it scales. So you can imagine the possibilities for that. You could have a small image get slightly larger if you want, or a product shot get larger. It's not scaling like an image would. If you can see it, probably see it better on your screen. It's not super clean, crisp, because it's just basically blowing it up in the browser. So it's not going to be super high quality. You might not want to do it much for an image, for example, because the quality is going to go down a little bit. But that's kind of what I wanted to show you on that. All right, so on this next one, what we're going to do is scale or skew this one a little bit. So I'm going to say pound div 4 for our fourth div there. And this time we're going to say, we'll just use WebKit again, -WebKit. And we're going to do transform again. And this time we're going to do skew. And inside of this skew, inside the parentheses, which it puts in there for us again, we're going to do a 30 DEG for the first value, and then 20 DEG for the second value. And you can see it's actually working here. So what it's doing is the first number is skewing along the x-axis, which is sideways, and the second number is skewing along the y-axis, which is vertical. So you get this weird sort of 3D effect, although it's technically 2D. So it's kind of twisting it sideways and vertically. So that's it. So let's copy that and use our official CSS down below here. And there you have it. So that's skew. A little bit strange. I'm not sure how much value that is, but you can definitely figure out some stuff to do with this. Okay. So those are some of the 2D transforms. So we covered translate, which basically moves your elements, rotate, which rotates them, scale, which scales them, and skew, which skews them. That makes a lot of sense, right? Okay, so now we're going to go to CSS 3D transforms. It looks like I had this in the wrong place. Let's go ahead and be a little smarter. I'm just going to move this above where I have my comment tag. So I have a comment tag in there that you probably have too that says CSS 3D transforms. These are all 2D transforms. So now we're going to do 3D. So go right below where it says CSS 3D transforms. And then the first one we're going to do here is div 5. All right, so it still starts the same way. So we're just going to do WebKit-transform. But this time we're going to say rotate and X, a large X. I'm not positive it has to be large X, but that's the way you usually see it. And then 60 DEG for the degrees, and that is it. And then let's copy and paste that for our official CSS. That was the vendor prefix version with WebKit. And you'll see what it did down here. So down here in your live view, you've got this element that looks kind of squished. But what it's actually done is it's rotated around the x-axis. So the x-axis is sort of, think of a line in 3D anyway. Think of a line horizontally through your object. That's your x-axis. Think of a line vertically through your 3D object, and that is the y-axis. And I can't show you because you're looking at a 2D thing. We need a hologram for this, right? But if you're looking through something, through your screen, that's the z-axis. So x, y, and z I can't show you because I don't have a hologram yet. I'm getting one for Christmas, somebody said. I'm hoping. Okay, so why does this look squished? Because it's rotating around this line, this invisible line that goes through the middle of this element. So it looks squished because it's kind of rotated. You're kind of seeing it tilted away from you. So that's what the rotate X does. It rotates around that X axis, which is pretty cool. So let's do that again, but for Y, and you'll see the difference here. I'm going to copy this because it's pretty close to the same thing. Let's say div 6, and this time we're going to rotate Y. So change the X to a Y. And we'll leave it at 60 and see what happens. And now it looks squished sideways. The reason it looks sideways squished is because it has rotated around the vertical line. So this element has spun, kind of like that, around a vertical line. That's why it looks squished. It's flipped around a little bit towards you. If we do 90 degrees, change this to 90, it looks like it's gone. Why does it look like it's gone? Because it's edge on to you. It's still there. It's just exactly sideways to you. Let's do 80 and you'll see what I mean here. 80. You can see it just a little bit because it's almost pointing at you sideways. Weird, right? But that's what it does. It rotates around that x-axis. All right, so that was a couple of 3D transforms. There are a lot more. Actually, that's a good point. Let me go back and show you just a list. So this is from W3 Schools. We just did a couple of the transforms. We did translate, rotate, scale. Let me make this bigger for you guys. Translate, rotate, scale, and skew. And then there's also matrix, which is kind of it's hard to explain. It's a way to use numerical scaling and distortion, and it doesn't really help me out that much, to be honest with you. But anyway, so those are some of the 2D transforms. We did most of those. The 3D transforms, we have rotate X and Y. We just did those. Rotate Z. You can rotate around the Z-axis, which is pretty cool, but you're just rotating in a different direction. So it would spin. Basically, it's like spinning vertically, spinning around. Now we're going to get to CSS transitions, and CSS transitions are animating. So we'll come back to this and see some of the different transition options after we do one here. Okay, so we are back on our page here, and we're going to go to div 7 under CSS3 transitions here. Yeah, let's do div 7. And this time we're going to add a couple things. We're going to add width of 100 pixels and a height of 100 pixels. And we're going to give it a background of red to be simple. So this is what we're looking at, is this little box here. And the reason we're giving it some of these properties is because we're going to transition some of these properties and basically animate them. And it's pretty sweet. So now we are going to get to the transition part. So let's do -moz for Mozilla, just in case Mozilla needs that vendor prefix. And then we're going to say transition. See, it's not far from transform. And then we're going to do width and then 2s. And then we'll do it again, and I'll talk about this in a second. Let's do it 2 more times. This time we're going to do it for WebKit on the second one, in case WebKit needs that, and then the actual CSS there. So we set up the transition in the actual specs, or in the properties for the element. It's not going to do anything yet because we're going to do this on hover. So what we're going to do is go down right below here, and then I'll come back and talk about what that width and 2s means. And we're going to say pound div 7 colon hover. So we're going to do this on hover. And all we're going to do is change the width. So right now the width is 100. Let's change it to 300. All right, let's see if this works in the... it does work in the live view. So look at that. Is that sweet? So what's going on is we roll over and we are transitioning or animating between a width of 100 and a width of 300. So I roll over and it changes to 300 wide, and I roll off and it goes back to 100. Even the text inside wraps differently because now it's got 300 pixels to work with. Now it's got 100. Pretty fun, right? So what does this mean, what we did up here? This means, transition means we want to basically animate from our initial state, which is up here in our div 7 rule, to our hover right here, which is width of 300. So we're animating from 100 to 300. Width means we want to animate the width. That's what we're animating. And then 2 seconds is the duration. So we've got our property that we're animating and our duration. That's one way to do it. We're going to do it a couple of different ways here to see how we can animate more things and then more possibilities and stuff like that. So let's do the next one. So we've got down here, we've got an image in here. So let's go to div 8 here. I think this is div 8. No, we are in div... Oh, no, we don't have any div at all. So I think we're okay. Right, okay, yeah, let's go back. Sorry about that. Okay, so now we are going to make some styles for an image. We only have one image on the page, so I'm just going to use the image selector. And then I'm going to go inside and give it a width of 100 and a height of 100. So I'm actually scaling the image with CSS there. And then we're going to add a -moz, transition, and then we're going to use the all keyword. So all means, instead of us saying width, a specific property, we're going to say all. And what that means is anything that changes between the original version and the hover version, in this case, is going to animate. So we don't have to say like width or height or anything. We just say all. That means transition everything at once. So we're going to say all, and then we'll do it in 2 seconds again. So that's the 2s part. And then to be safe, we'll copy and paste it a couple of times with WebKit again. And then just the official one here. And then what we will do, I'm just showing you that you can do this with other things besides boxes and things. You can do it with all kinds of stuff. So what we're going to do is put image hover for the hover pseudo class. And then we will change the height and width to 200. I'll just copy and paste it here. Copy that. Paste that. Change it to 200. and we should be good. So if I roll over this image, check that out. You're scaling the image using height and width, but you're doing it over 2 seconds of time. So there you go. Pretty cool, right? So you can do lots of cool things with these transitions. All right. Let's go ahead and go to the next one. This one is div 8. Did I start div 8 or no? I didn't. Okay. Div 8. And this one we're going to use the, I've got a little note in here for you. We're going to use the transition shorthand. The 4 properties in the shorthand are the property that you're going to animate, the duration, which we've done, the timing function, which we have not done. That's kind of the speed and the speed curve, if you will, of the animation. I'll show you some examples in a second. And then you can also add an optional delay. So these are optional, the timing function and the delay, but we'll add those in for this one. So on div 8, we're going to add a couple little things here. We're going to add a padding of 5 pixels and 10 pixels. And then we're going to add a background of 9C3. Just change the background of that to, so it's this green background here. And then we're going to change the opacity as well. So let's do, let's just do opacity. And let's say 0.7. So now it's kind of, actually let's do 0.5. You'll be able to see it a little better. So 0.5, it's kind of faded out. It's half transparent because we added opacity of 0.7. And then we're going to do our transition part. So again, you do the transition information inside the original, not the hover, which is a little bit interesting, but that's how it works. So we're going to say dash WebKit. We'll just do WebKit. Transition. And what we're going to do is opacity 0.3s, that's seconds, the s is seconds, and we're going to say ease in, and you see it gives you the easing functions that you can use. I'm going to say ease in out, and I'll talk about that in a second. And then we'll say 0.5 seconds, that's the delay. Let me move this over here a little bit so you guys have a little more space to see that, because all can be on one line there. Okay, there it is right there. And then we want to add that, of course, at least with the official transition property. Copy that. Paste it. We could do it again with Mozilla, but I think we're probably okay, at least for the example here. So there we've got opacity. That's what we're animating. And then we've got 3 seconds, ease in and out, and 5 seconds. 3 seconds is the duration, ease in and out is the timing function, it's called, and then this is the delay. So let's try it, and then we'll come back and look at those again real quick. So let's do div 8. And then hover, because we want to do this on hover, so we need to add the hover. And then we'll change the opacity to 1.0. And then as we do that, if you roll over that, you'll see that the opacity changes from 0.5 to 1 as we roll over. There's also a little delay. That's this 0.5 seconds. The timing is 0.3 seconds, and the delay is 0.5. So it takes about 1/3 of a second to happen, but there's a half-second delay before it happens. So if we change the background color here, well, yeah. So if we change the background color here, let's go to background, and we'll change the background color to gray. So what happens? We still get the animation, but we only get the animation on the opacity. So you can kind of combine these things. The gray, if you look closely, if you try it at home, as soon as I roll on, it's instantly gray. As soon as I roll off, it's instantly green. But the animation is only on the opacity. If I wanted to animate everything, again, I could use the all keyword. So let's change this to all. And now, oops, lost it here. Now, as I roll over, the color animates as well. So the all keyword animates everything. If you use a specific property, you will only animate that. So I'm going to put that back to opacity, and you see you're only animating the opacity. The background color is instantaneous. You can also do this if you want separate timing functions and easing and that kind of stuff for different properties. Maybe you don't want to animate everything at the same time. You can put a comma in here and add more transitions. We're going to skip that, but that is a possibility. I did want to show you the timing functions because we used ease in, out. What does that mean? That is the timing function. If I go over here to this is from the W3 Schools webpage. These are the timing functions. You've got ease, linear, ease in, ease out, ease in and out, and there's a cubic Bezier, which is kind of nutty, and those are most of them. It's easier to see this if we take a look at it. So if I go to the editor here, there's a try it button here. I think right here, I think is where it is. And if you roll over these are the different timing functions. So that's linear. Linear means the speed is the same the whole time. It doesn't speed up or slow down. It's not very natural because in real life you have to accelerate and decelerate unless you're a super being or something, or you're in a spaceship in a sci-fi movie. You have to speed up and slow down. So that's linear. Here's ease. You see it's kind of slow at the beginning and slow at the end and faster in the middle. This one, ease in, means it's slow at the beginning and then speeds up. Ease out is the opposite. Fast at the beginning, slow at the end. So that's ease out. And then ease in and out, slow at the beginning, slow at the end. The middle is kind of medium. I don't know. I'm not sure if ease looks that much different. I think it goes at constant speed in the middle. It looks slightly different, but it's pretty close. Ease and ease in out are pretty close. So those are what those different timing functions do. If I could get this out of the way. Okay. I'm just going to get rid of it completely. Okay, so that's pretty cool, right? So we've got one more to do, one or two more. And this one is going to use the shorthand and multiple properties to animate. So we're going to go down here. Let's just go down. We can just put it right here. And this one is div 9. So we're going to go div 9. And we've got to add a few things. So we're going to add background of 99F. And then we're going to change the color to white. That's the text color. So we're working with this div down here. Now it's purple and got white text. We're going to do dash WebKit transform. And we're going to transform rotate Y. So as soon as I start typing R, you can see I got rotate showing up. And then for some reason the Y doesn't show up, so I got to type that in. I'm going to go rotate Y and 0 DEG. So we haven't actually done anything. It's 0 rotation, so it looks the same as it already is. But we're going to animate this. Then we will copy and paste that to the regular transform property. So we'll rotate Y 0 degrees. And then we're going to add our transition. So we'll say dash WebKit transition. And we're going to do all 2 seconds and ease. We're not putting a delay on this one. And I think that is it. Oh, I think that is it. Yeah. So let's go down below there and add div 9 hover. Oops. Div 9 hover. There we go. And this time we want to change the background. So we're going to animate a bunch of different things. And kind of like we did a minute ago, but this one will spin as well. So we're going to change it to F00, which is red. We're going to change the color, which is the text color, to CF0. And we're going to rotate Y, so we can actually copy and paste this here. We're going to rotate Y 360 degrees. So what we did is we set up a 0 degrees up here and 360 down here. And one thing we forgot is we should definitely add the transition with the regular CSS property. Definitely want to end with that. So let's go back through this. We've changed the background color to this for our initial state. White is our text color. You can see it down there already. Rotate 0. We set it up to rotate 0. You might not need that, but I put it in there because it sort of sets up our first keyframe if you want to think of it in animation terms. So we're rotating Y at 0, and then we're going to do this. We're going to animate these properties, all of them, over 2 seconds using the easing function. No delay on this one. So it's going to change to red, background, green text, and it's going to rotate 360, which is, if you are playing along at home, it is one full revolution. So let's try it over here in the, oh that's crazy. Look at that. I can even see it from behind. The text is backwards. Look at it on your own computer. It's pretty crazy. So this is spinning around 360 degrees and turning red, and the color of the text is changing. Then when I roll off, as you watch it spin, you can actually see the back side of the text, which is visible by default. So it's spinning. We're seeing the text backwards. It's kind of nutty. So that's kind of a fun little example of something. I would probably not do that too much. It's probably a little bit crazy and annoying, but yeah. So there you go. So there is we animated 3 things: the background, the color, and the rotation around the y-axis, and that was what we got. So I think that's it. So that's just kind of playing around with CSS 2D transition, CSS 3D CSS 2D transforms, CSS 3D transforms, and CSS 3 transitions. All big fun. All right, so hopefully that was cool, and I will talk to you again next time.